Paris, 1679. A brazier flickers in a stone chamber while a woman in a silk hood whispers a prayer that is not quite Latin. Somewhere else, a bottle the size of a thumb glints like a promise. By the time the Sun King hears the rumor, the poison has been working for years. Welcome to Simply Suspicious, the podcast where history gets side-eyed and scandal gets the velvet rope treatment. It's 17th century France, and the air smells like roses, rot, and repression. Paris is booming with perfume, poison, and paranoia, a trifecta that could only thrive under the reign of Louis XIV, the Sun King, whose court glittered brighter than any chandelier at Versailles. But beneath the powdered wigs and pearls, the kingdom was simmering with something darker, whispers of witchcraft, alchemy, and murder for hire. Our story begins not with a queen or a countess, but with a midwife and self-styled sorceress named Lavoisin, real name Catherine Monvoisin. She's a spiritual consultant, abortionist, and occasional poison dealer to the desperate women of Paris. Business is good. After all, when your husband's cheating, your inheritance is slipping away, and your confessor's judging you, sometimes you need a little arsenic with your absolution. By the late 1670s, Lavoisin's clientele included noblewomen, mistresses, and courtiers, anyone looking for a shortcut through sin. Among them was Madame de Montespan, the Sun King's longtime mistress and the mother of 7 of his children. When the king's affections began to wane, Montespan allegedly turned to Lavoisin for spiritual reinforcement. That reinforcement, according to rumor, came in the form of black masses, literal rituals where priests were bribed to recite blasphemous prayers over the naked body of a noblewoman, praying not to God, but to the devil to rekindle royal passion. These weren't your garden variety Parisian seances. Accounts claimed sacrificial infants, chalices of blood, and Latin chants that would make any exorcist quit mid-sermon. Whether true or exaggerated by terrified courtiers, the idea of these rituals spread like wildfire. And when people in power panic, heads roll, figuratively, at first. In 1679, the death of a nobleman from suspected poisoning sparked a chain reaction that would lead straight to Versailles. The king ordered a secret tribunal, the Chambre Ardente, or Burning Court. It was literally named for the torches that lit its chambers, appropriate since it would soon set half of Paris ablaze with fear. Over 400 suspects were questioned, tortured, or executed in connection with what came to be known as the Affair of the Poisons. Housewives, herbalists, fortune tellers, anyone with a mortar and pestle suddenly found themselves on the wrong side of the law. And through all the interrogations, one name kept resurfacing: Lavoisin. She was accused not only of selling poisons, but of performing black masses and serving noble clients who wanted everything from inheritance bumps to convenient widowhoods. Under torture, her associates revealed the names of hundreds of clients, including some dangerously close to the royal bedchamber. The scandal rippled through Versailles like perfume laced with cyanide. Montespan's name appeared in Lavoisin's confessions, suggesting she'd ordered love spells and poisons to keep Louis's attention. When Louis heard, he reportedly said, "I will not have the scandal discussed," and promptly shut down the court after too many aristocrats were implicated. Justice was swift and selective. Madame de Montespan was more than a royal favorite. She was the public face of Louis XIV's private life, and through that position, she helped shape the culture of Versailles itself. As mistress, she set the tone for elegance and intellect at court. Her wit, taste, and command of ceremony made her indispensable to the king and central to the image of France's golden age. Her children with Louis were formally recognized and raised with care, giving her an unusual kind of influence, half maternal, half political. Yet her position depended entirely on favor, and favor was fragile. When the affair of the poison surfaced in the late 1670s, Montespan's name appeared in whispered accusations linking her to love potions and forbidden rites. Nothing was proven, and the official records stopped short of indictment, but rumor alone was enough to alter her standing. After the execution of Lavoisin in 1680, Montespan remained at court but no longer at its center. Her dismissal was gradual rather than public, leaving her not disgraced, but diminished. A lesson in how swiftly admiration can turn to suspicion. By the time the affair of the poisons concluded, over 30 people had been executed and dozens more imprisoned or exiled. The investigation that followed relied not only on courts but on royal prerogative. Through letters, sealed orders issued in the king's name, suspects could be detained without trial, their confinement justified as a matter of state rather than of law. For ordinary citizens, it was imprisonment without recourse. For nobles, it was a discreet means of control. The crown preferred silence to spectacle when its own were implicated. This strategy of quiet containment blurred the boundary between justice and preservation. Files were sealed, testimonies redacted, and the names of the powerful quietly removed. What remains in the archives is incomplete, a record shaped as much by whatever was erased as by whatever was written. Yet even without full proof, the illusion of Versailles had cracked. Beneath its frescoed ceilings lay a court where desperation, faith, and vanity could all be turned into weapons. Louis XIV, shaken by the affair, pivoted from ostentatious grandeur to religious reform, closing brothels, banning certain plays, and increasing his public piety. But privately, the court learned a quiet lesson. Power and poison often came from the same bottle. As for La Voisin, her ashes scattered into the Paris wind, her legend remained, part midwife, part monster, part martyr to a society that made women dangerous simply for surviving it. And somewhere between the sacred and the scandalous, she became the godmother of every whispered accusation that followed. The opulent corridors of Versailles remained unchanged. Golden mirrors reflected the same royal silhouettes. The Sun King, Louis XIV, still sat on his throne, still radiating power, but the stain of the scandal lingered in the hush of the courtiers. As the tribunal of the Chambre Ardente, that infamous burning court, concluded its hearings in 1682, the palace had to contend with more than poisoned perfumes. Gabriel Nicolas de la Reynie, the lieutenant general of police in Paris, was charged with untangling the web of accusations that became the affair of the poisons. Appointed in 1667, he was effectively the architect of modern policing, introducing street lighting, surveillance networks, and a professionalized system of order in a city better known for its intrigue than its justice. His role in the investigation marked a shift from medieval notions of punishment toward bureaucratic control. Information, not confession, became the crown's most valuable tool. Under him, Paris was mapped and cataloged in ways it had never been before. The same structures used to keep streets clean and curfews enforced were now turned toward rooting out moral and political corruption. The investigation he led blurred the line between crime and heresy, private vice and public threat, an early expression of the centralized state's power to define and contain disorder. The very idea of trust had cracked. From 1679 onward, the investigation exposed that nobles, the bourgeois, even fortune-tellers and apothecaries were implicated in a network of poison, magic, and fear. Fear took root. Every whispered promise of a little extra favor got a shade darker. La Voisin's name, once whispered with reverence or desperation among ladies who arranged quiet solutions, now circulated with dread. Her legacy haunted the hallways as if the chandeliers themselves were dripping guilt. For Louis, image was everything. Versailles was a theater of ritual. Each day unfolded in choreographed sequence. His morning routine, mass in the royal chapel, the endless procession of audiences. Presence at these ceremonies was a form of currency. Visibility itself conferred status. The Hall of Mirrors, dazzling and immense, functioned less as architecture than as a stage where reflection substituted for truth. The court existed in perpetual performance, every gesture a declaration of loyalty, every silence an act of strategy. Beneath that spectacle ran another economy: petitions, bribes, whispered recommendations, and the illicit trade in poisons and predictions. The official rhythm of devotion and etiquette masked a world sustained by favor and fear. When the image faltered, what remained was policy. Louis tightened his court, distanced himself from favorites, and expanded religious oversight, not purely from conviction, but from anxiety. Order, not faith, became his refuge. And yet the palace still stood, glittering, imposing, and unyielding, because the monarchy had to prove that one scandal wouldn't dim its light, that the Sun King still rose. The affair of the poisons didn't just expose the corruption of a court, it rewired how France viewed power, superstition, and justice. The affair of the poisons did not end with its trials either. In the 18th century, it lived on in pamphlets and gossip, reimagined as a cautionary tale about the decadence of Louis's reign. The 19th century made its spectacle again. Historians and novelists recast Montespan and Lavoisin as archetypes of fallen grandeur and forbidden power. Modern films and fiction return to it for the same reason Versailles once did, the uneasy meeting of faith, ambition, and performance. Its patterns echo elsewhere in Europe: witchcraft prosecutions in Würzburg and Bamberg, Venetian poison scandals, the quiet purges of court magicians in Madrid and Vienna. Each began as an attempt to define moral order and ended by revealing political fear. In the ashes of Lavoisin's pyre, the monarchy tried to erase the evidence of its own complicity, but the story endured precisely because erasure was impossible. The smoke may have cleared. The suspicion never did. More than 400 people were arrested, 36 executed, many more vanished into exile or the Bastille. The Chambre Ardente was quietly dissolved in 1682. Too many noble names, too many secrets. Officially, the king had purged the realm of evil. Unofficially, he buried the proof of Versailles' rot. The cultural fallout was immediate. France's obsession with poisons and witchcraft would fuel novels, operas, and political propaganda for centuries. The story morphed from crime report to cautionary tale, a reminder that when women seek power in a system built to deny them, the world will always call it witchcraft. By the time revolution swept through France a century later, pamphleteers resurrected Lavoisin and Montespan as symbols, not of sin, but of the hypocrisy that had once ruled behind gilded gates. The Sun King's shadow, they called it, proof that no divine right could outshine the darkness it cast. And maybe that's why the affair of the poison still lingers, because it isn't just a story about Versailles. It's a mirror of fear, of vanity, of how far people will go to taste a little forbidden power. In the palace of gold and marble, the darkest poison was, and will always be, power unchecked. Thank you for listening to Simply Suspicious. If you enjoyed our stroll through Versailles' darker corridors, consider leaving a review, sharing with a friend, or, in true Sun King fashion, dramatically gesturing at a chandelier while you do it. You can find image references and sources in the show notes, and I will also be posting some pictures of my trip to Versailles on our Instagram page. Until next time, keep your curiosity sharp, your skepticism kind, and your perfumes unpoisoned. Bye, y'all.